Dr. Davis's voice. She'll be with us in just a second.
Yes, I have my camera real. Well, I'm here and my camera is I don't know what's going on with it, but how are you, Cheryl?
I'm doing good. We can hear your voice, so we know momentarily we'll be able to see your beautiful face.
Yeah, I am in the office today. And it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, a rainy day. We have our afternoon monsoon that we are accustomed to here in Tampa. And that means we'll get about 15, 20 minutes of wonderful showers, and we'll be back to sun and humidity again.
Oh, promises, promises, promises. Well, to as we continue to work through and certainly try to get you back on the on camera,
Yes,
today's show,
I'm
and
pushing
I know
buttons.
Dr. Davis has said this, and we've been repeating this now. I think this is month 4, and each time we want to go back to what used to be some sense of normalcy for us, and that was to always shout out certain health conditions that brought awareness to different months of the year. COVID is still real, and COVID, we, oh my gosh, real isn't even the word, it's beyond. We are now the new epic center. We are the hot spot, or one of the top hot spots in the nation. And that means that our in-house expert has to continue to talk to us and brief us on where we are and what's going on and how to better protect ourselves. And so I'm going to give her a few minutes because we do want to be able to see her face. I'm going to see if we can troubleshoot for her, and until then, oh, I see the logo, so that means hopefully she's right around the corner.
Well,
But if nothing else, we have the logo. And so, but first, shout out to thank you to In Touch News. We see you. Turn yourself around. This is what happens when you have to do shows from your home or your home office. You just get to do crazy things. And so
hey,
all of us
I'm with it.
all of
Just
us
keep
need
going.
an opportunity to smile. And so this is what is happening today. But a special shout out to our producers and our company, In Touch News Radio. We've all been trying to continue the show. We have not missed a beat since this pandemic started, and it has been a learning experience for all of us. Each week seems to bring its own new great challenges, but all praises to God, we're able to just go right through them. And today is no different. So for that, thank you to In Touch News and to our to the owners, Daryl in Tampa Bay, Tammy. Thank you so much, Daryl. Hope you're feeling better. Soon we'll get to see each other all again back down in Studio 14. In Touch News. So again, thank you to our Facebook listeners, to those who listen on YouTube. Whoop, whoop, there she is. To those who listen on the Facebook and YouTube and other channels and platforms that we're using. We thank you so much. It's interesting, Dr. Davis, to see how here doing the show, we could be talking to 200 or 300 people, and then you see the numbers grow to 5, 7, 1,000. We thank each and every one of you. So today, I'm actually going to kind of take a step back. Dr. Davis just has so much to cover, and we want to hear about those things. For those that received our promo flyer, we want to talk about how COVID is affecting us, particularly our culture, and the 4 points that we wanted to talk about: the current state, inflammation, and those chronic diseases, and then as a result of that, immunity. So I take this time out to my second hour co-host, Dr. Shanae Davis. There she is.
Yes, yes. So technology may not be my ministry, but absolutely, but absolutely, health is. Thank you so much to everyone for joining us once more for this second Wednesday of the month, talking business with Cheryl J. Cousseau on health, the business of health. So, COVID-19 is still with us. And those of you in states like Florida, where we are a really business friendly state, I want to um, no matter how you vote, your governor is your governor, your community is your community, and where some you may feel someone may, fall short of, protecting everyone, we can do what we can as individual citizens, as leaders in our family and community to help keep one another safe. Ultimately, COVID-19 is an airborne virus, and it has shelf life and surface life. So we just have to do what we can to keep ourselves and our family and our neighbors safe, because ultimately that is a risk that affects everyone. So where one is
Absolutely.
unsafe, we're all unsafe. So that being said, here in Florida, we're one of those states that are back on the rise. We never shut down or curbed those numbers sufficiently to open up as robustly as we have. Businesses were suffering, people were getting restless. We, wanted to get out. Our governor said okay, and we went out there and did it. Lo and behold, instead of flattening the curve, we got a dip and a surge. Currently, Florida has 224,000 confirmed cases. In the United States, that's about 3 million. So, here in my community, in our community, in Tampa, we're at 12,000. Where are we, relative to everyone else? Well, we are one of the three hotspots in
Yeah.
the country. Florida, Texas, and Arizona are where we're seeing the highest incidence, which means new cases, the highest incidence of COVID-19 take place. In Arizona, it's actually about every 1 in 4 tests are returning positive. So, what does that mean for you and I? That means we have to stay vigilant. So, for it to be on the rise in Florida, this means maybe Memorial Day or Juneteenth, or maybe Fourth of July activities got out of hand. We got a little close. We, aren't social distancing. We aren't wearing our mask. COVID got on the surface, something on the doorknob. We opened some doors, wiped our nose, wiped our eyes, or whatever. It's the contact and being closer than 6 feet to our neighbors, our people in our community, that's really facilitating the transmission of this, unfortunately. And we just simply have to do our part. You all may remember that there was a political rally in Arizona where there wasn't a whole bunch of social distancing or mask wearing, and a very prominent African American, Herman Cain, was there. 11 days later, he ended up in the hospital, affected by COVID. So it really is real, and it's more significant to us as Black people.
Well, doctor, that
We have more.
see this. Remember, your teacher would say, "Raise your hand. I will only call on you if you
Hmm.
raise your hand." Listen, as I was
Yes.
hearing you call out the stats, and I've been hearing some of our political pundits kind of playing down on the numbers, especially when it comes to hospitalization. I'm hearing that. Or it's being reported that hospitals, had ample space. But what I'm starting to hear over the last couple of days is those hospital beds are now starting to fill up, not
Yeah.
necessarily at capacity, but they're filling up. And then the other thing, and hopefully your statistics will share that with us, would also be the number of deaths. We're seeing the spike. I mean, we're seeing that
Hmm.
on every news outlet. But in addition to the spike, we're coming back to that original problem, losing our loved ones and hospitals not being at capacity or reaching capacity.
Absolutely, absolutely. So the hospitalization issue, initially it was thought that and actually I even thought that myself. Okay, if we're testing more, we're certainly going to find more cases of
Absolutely.
positives. And maybe like for the first week, that, held some, weight, significance, validity or what have you. But over time, when you test more, With
Yeah.
a greater number, you should see a lower impact. If more people are being, infected or affected by COVID-19, testing more should make that proportion of persons affected look smaller.
Yes, you would think.
Okay, so over time, we would like to see the proportion of persons affected by COVID get smaller. What we're hearing in the news and by some with a different perspective is that we're testing more, so we're seeing bigger numbers.
Right.
That makes sense if we're only looking at numbers, but if we're looking at the proportion of positive cases per people tested, number of persons tested, we should not see an increase in that ratio. I'm not exactly certain what the Florida ratio is. I literally just heard it this morning about Arizona, and that's why I keep mentioning that. 1 in 4 persons tested now is positive in Arizona, and that is astronomical. What's considered quote unquote getting under control is something under 10%. Last I researched, we were about 15 in Florida, and we certainly want to keep going down, but 25%, 1 in 4 persons tested, that is huge. um, 15% of persons tested, that's huge. What's different now? Well, what's further substantiating the fact that these cases are growing, and it isn't just testing more people, is that we're seeing a resurgence in the hospital admissions, and that's what we did not want to see. At first, when COVID came upon our American society, there were some communities that were making, putting gyms together. We have
No.
actually USF Sundome was being considered as a COVID acute care center, so that we can have the positive COVID cases out of the hospital in just
Right.
a center to further isolate those cases. We didn't get there then. I'm wondering if we're going to have to reconsider such a measure. Hopefully, we will not. But when hospital cases start to go up again, this means people are getting sick. Um, the number of available intensive care unit beds has now started to reduce again. We're seeing more people in intensive care, so there are not as many beds available in intensive care units,
Correct.
and
That's
that
what I said
in
earlier.
itself is an indicator of how severe the problem is. Initially, we were considering, oh gosh, the people over 65 are at big risk. They're still at big risk, but they're listening now. They're listening. They're staying inside. They're social distancing. They're wearing masks. They're wiping down surfaces. They are taking the appropriate precautions so that the incidence, new cases, incidence, does not further go up in that age cohort, in the group of Floridians that are over the age of 65, where we are seeing new cases, persons under the age of 50 and even under the age of 35. And that is a big, big problem. Our immune systems, as we're younger, I'm just claiming it, our
Oh,
secret shit.
girl,
Yeah.
I know we both had birthdays, but 25
Right.
and 28 all day long.
Yes. Okay. 28 and a half, 25 and a half, what have you.
Yeah, whatever.
As younger people under 65, we tend to have immune systems that are more robust when we are caring for ourselves, when we are eating healthy, variety, and exercising, moving around. But what if we aren't? And that's part of what we're going to talk about today. The chronic nature of Black health. We have several chronic diseases, so does everybody, but we see it more so in our community, and why this puts us at risk for having the worst outcomes when it comes to a COVID infection. We got to address those things today.
Absolutely. And as you begin to take us through those, especially when you're starting to talk about the diet, and I'm noticing, look, got a burn on my arm already. And I said to myself, I'm getting these little, little burns here and there. And I was like, what's different? You're spending more time in the kitchen than you normally used to. But you were talking about being young and being robust, and I'm thinking about before the pandemic, how every day make perhaps I mean I know I'm a great walker. I love to power walk, but I like to always make sure I'm doing something every day. I'm constantly moving, but I'm noticing a difference because I'm not getting that mileage in, and
Mhm.
I find myself cooking more. And what is it called? The quarantine 15.
I'm not claiming any of that.
Well, you can say whatever you want to say. When I start to get dressed, it's claiming it for me. So yeah,
I
I'm looking forward to us because there are some measures we must take before it gets out of control.
mm,
And so I'm looking forward to hear you talk about that because when you start talking about inflammation, that just affects so many different levels of what we endure and things we're putting into our bodies. So take it, tell us, help us.
indeed, indeed. So staying inside for our quote unquote isolation, or if we're having to quarantine and things like that, we're should be cooking more, and I commend you for that. If you're cooking if a person's cooking anyway, you're to be commended. But what is it that we are cooking? I'm going to back up just a little bit and talk about our people because um, excuse me, our younger people, and sometimes our when you don't have as much money, we choose those convenience foods and fast foods and things that are high in fat and sugar. And many of those foods are pro-inflammatory. We see weight issues in our young that we didn't see, a decade and a half ago, two decades ago. We see early diabetes, we see early cholesterol and hypertensive problems that we had not even had to consider in women of childbearing age and younger active men. We're having to assess those things as healthcare providers now, particularly in our patients of minority descent. So when you're young and you're in the house, if you're cooking more, that usually does result in better nutrition, better weight, etc. But if we're eating fast foods, if we're eating those foods that are high in refined sugar, whatnot, these are foods that actually encourage inflammation, and it's inflammation that makes us worse candidates for COVID recovery, less likely to recover from COVID. So with the high fructose corn syrup, with trans fats, with things that you find in the middle aisles of the grocery store, we've before talked about shopping on the
Right,
periphery where the meats and the vegetables and the cashier, or
correct,
you just make your
correct.
circle and you go check out. Those things that have a shelf life, it's actually salt, fat, and sugar that give them a shelf life. And just like things can stay stable, in the middle of the aisle, they stay stable in your body that way as well. And we don't always want that. High sugar, vegetable and seed oils, other refined carbohydrates. This means that in the factory, so much has been done to them to make them sit on the shelf good. These foods or be digested a bit more quickly in your body. All of those things, devoid the food product of nutrition and make your health more likely to succumb to changes of cancer and mutations and things that aggravate overall good health and lead to chronic disease. These are pro-inflammatory type food choices. The chemicals in processed meat, for example, you may have heard of the nitrates in
Right,
bacon.
especially most meats.
Yeah, or if a meat is smoked or jerkied and things like that, those chemicals are pro-inflammatory, and in some cases, are carcinogens, means that they increase your risk for cancer. Oils that are highly processed vegetable oils also have that effect. trans fats. Most of our foods are a little bit are trans fat free, but you want to go that extra step and be a little bit more vigilant to look for trans fats on your food labels and avoid those foods. And also high sugar foods. All of these things are pro inflammatory.
And if you are using them, you are eating them, ingesting them, obviously use that in moderation.
I want you to stop it.
Are you saying this rib? Are you saying I'm going to have to give up my smoked ribs on Fridays? Did she
Well,
just say that?
well,
Did he just say that,
I'm
y'all?
encouraging. I give recommendations to patients, and when I speak to people, even in this form, I make recommendations. Um, when you know better, we generally do
Yeah,
better.
we
And
should cut that down to twice
yeah,
a month and not 4 times a month. I agree.
yeah, we can have. I like ribs myself. Do I like smoked meats? I think smoked meats are nice. However, the more I read about the soot that
Oh,
gives
absolutely.
to
I
the
mean,
smoke
I was
flavor,
convinced when
I,
I started reading about the carcinogenic effects um,
yeah,
in our smoked meat. So yes,
the char, from even the grills and things like that. Once you ingest that, the chemicals still are there and they affect your body. They're chemicals.
absolutely.
So the more you learn about that, the more you read about that, it sort of solidifies those principles in your head and sort of validates what you read. And when you know that this can happen to your body, it's very hard. Unless you're addicted to something, it's very hard to hurt yourself on purpose. I'm a Georgia girl. I used to like chitlins, used to, and it's not that that sweet boiling fat, hoggy smell, I mean, when they clean good, of course.
Lord have mercy.
When that's, like a pig ear or a pigtail or even a foot. Oh my gosh, my patients, if they
Oh,
hear
did
this,
she
they're
go
gonna be
there?
however, but these things are sort of germane to our cultural
Yeah.
palate, in some respect. When I read and knew that that solid animal fat, once it's in my body, what the
What's happening to
potential
it?
for complications and heart disease and atherosclerotic changes were, it's really hard to ingest that, knowing what can take place in my body. Even more so, I don't have a personal family history of stroke and heart attack, but many of us do. If
Yeah.
that's in my family history, and I know that this is how it happens, it's very difficult to decide to ingest that. So, knowledge is very important in helping to adjust our health beliefs, and we have to do our part in our community to help our fellow brother, make.
And we commend you on trying to steer us in the right direction, and you certainly have been keeping it real for us, and it's up to us as consumers and adults to take that information and that knowledge and apply it. And that's really where the power comes in, is when we apply this knowledge. And so for that, we are very appreciative. Thank you for that. But
Now,
it's
of
real.
course,
It's real. So when you talk about what I think made it real to me is when I began to understand, and just about every chronic disease, it goes back to inflammation,
it goes
and
back to inflammation.
goes back to inflammation, and then that goes back to our dietary intake.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, eating clean, we can call it that, but we can just eat things that are more like they came from the earth. That's the way I define eating clean
Okay.
when my patients would ask me, we can just eat more plants. And if we get a collard green and we pick it and we cut it and we cook it, that's pretty close to how it comes from the earth. However, if we're eating collard green chips or veggie straws or something like that from the center aisle of the grocery store, okay, if it was made with kale or made with greens and it doesn't look like a green anymore, that's processed. And
Yeah.
we have to be mindful of those things. Well, actually, it's a very common question I'm asked. Well, what about, I don't eat bacon, I eat turkey bacon. Where do you find bacon on a turkey? So ultimately, what turkey bacon is, and this is just an example of it, but turkey bacon is like a meat amalgam. It's essentially bologna made with turkey. It's dark parts and light parts, a little bit of color added here and there, lined up and rolled out and cut in a shape. If you look at it closely, it literally looks like something that you blended up, pressed
Yeah.
out, dried up, and it doesn't even fry nicely. So with the additives and flavors and things like that, again, that's processing, and those things are what encourage inflammation at the cellular and microvascular levels that increase our risk for those complications that Black people are always at the top of the list for. That's what we should not do or should reconsider when we're making our diet decisions. What can we do that's really good?
Yeah,
I'll
tell us. And we're going to take a break in a few minutes, but so we don't want you to get into anything heavy. But go
Mhm.
ahead and tell us some of the things that we can do so that we can wrap up the whole diet piece, and then we'll dive into some of those chronic inflammatory diseases.
Indeed, indeed. Eating more plants, eating more
Okay.
things that come from the earth, like they come from the earth, that is so helpful. Those phytonutrients, the enzymes that make plants, those are very, very helpful for our body. The other
Mhm.
things is focusing on antioxidants, oxidation. If you think
Yes,
about rust on a iron pipe, that's oxidizing.
absolutely.
I hear Daryl asking about Dr. Sebi. Ooh, just I'll take a sidebar on that, but I'll address some questions on that. But antioxidants help to reduce our potential for having rust-like oxidation effects go on in our bodies at the
Yes.
cellular level. These are found in like dark berries, or you can make sure you're getting in like vitamin C and vitamin E. Those are antioxidants. Green leafy vegetables, beets, avocados, beans, whole grains, green tea, ginger, those things have antioxidating properties and are beneficial.
The
Um,
darker the berry, sweeter the juice.
the darker the berry, the sweeter the juice, of
One
course.
of our colleagues, actually, this is a good segue. Our third hour of the day host is Jeanette, Diva
Jeanette,
J.
yeah,
And
she's
Diva
wonderful.
J's
Yeah.
sister, Dr. Elizabeth Horridge Freeman, has
Mm,
her own podcast. And Sweet of the Juice. It is a phenomenal podcast. And if you haven't, you got to check her out.
the
She
sweeter
is
the juice.
she is keeping it real. And I thought, what a perfect name. But she deals with all aspects. And so we're going to come back after the break so that we can talk more about that. But you're right. You've got to start looking at, and even as well, the darker green leafy vegetables as well as we go into a plant life diet. And that's great. And the fact that we have a little more time and we're cooking more does allow us to be able to think first and
Explore
make
and
sure
think.
that that meal that we are preparing for our family or for us individually is the right thing. And here's a perfect time. Normally, and I'm a reader, and I love to read multiple books. But what a great opportunity is to go back to some of the very basics. Kind of like I read a book years ago called Back to Eden. And basically, that's what the premise of the book was: eating, going back to the Garden of Eden,
Eating
and
clean.
what God created for us. It is more natural state, which would certainly eradicate a lot of our problems. So we're going to take a break, and
Indeed.
so you'll see our logos, perhaps our photos, but we'll be back in 2 minutes. Back after the break.
Indeed.
The storks are bringing me a baby brother. We can do this together.
All right, let's go.
Storks know how to keep kids safe. Do you?
What?
Oh my gosh, you don't know.
I know.
You don't. Oh man, you laugh when you're uncomfortable.
No.
Making sure your child is in the right car seat is one of the steps to safer travel.
I will rock this.
You will rock this.
To know for sure that your child is in the right car seat for their age and size, visit safercar.gov/the right seat.
Cool. Very cool.
Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
It's important to plan ahead for emergencies, like the storm. When it kicked in, we had a plan.
Separated.
We were able to get in touch with each other
and had
in
no
no time.
idea how to find each other.
The whole experience was
the
fine.
most frightening 10 hours of my life.
If there's one piece of advice I'd offer other moms out there, it's to stay calm
don't
and keep
ignore
to the
this
plan.
message.
Some parents plan ahead, some don't. Make sure you know where to find your family in an emergency. Start your plan at ready.gov. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Tampa Bay Tammy
Your girlfriend.
on In Touch Radio. In Touch Radio.
Hello, Kubo. What have you got planned for today? Come on, this way.
Adventure can be found anywhere, but the best place to start is in the forest.
It's the most powerful magic there is.
Head outside to discover incredible animals
Wow.
and beautiful plants that come together to create an unforgettable adventure. So grab your loved ones and explore a world of possibilities. Visit discovertheforest.org to find the closest forest or park to you. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the U.S. Forest Service.
My teacher said that we should have a plan in case of an emergency. Do we have one?
First thing I'm gonna do is grab a flashlight with dead batteries.
I'm going to start randomly throwing clothes in the bag. You two will be hiding in the closet and Dad won't be able to find you.
And that's when we both start crying.
Uncontrollably. Can you pass the cutlets?
Winging it is not an emergency plan. Make sure your kids know what to do during an emergency, who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Search Ready Kids at nyc.gov or call 311. Brought to you by the New York City Office of Emergency Management and the Ad Council.
And just like that, we're back. Let's talk business with SJC, second hour of the show. My co-host, Dr. Shani Davis, putting things in perspective for us as we take advantage of this pandemic, learn from it, do some things, correct some old habits while we have just a little bit of time. Those were important points, and I appreciate that. Oh, did I say and twice?
So a question came in about Dr. Sebi.
Yeah.
Dr. Sebi was an herbalist and a scientist per se. Some, dispute him, but he had diabetes and obesity and some other complications, high cholesterol, impotence, those things that are sometimes associated with diabetes and but chronic disease. He was an Afro-Caribbean man. Or Afro-Central American man, and he took in a lot of herbs and studied a bunch of herbs, came up with a regimen that people swear by is the end-all, be-all, and cure-all for certain health conditions. I did take a minute to look him up, and looking at the alkaline diet and some of the things that he promoted, it's not very different from what it is that we're saying. Remember, all medicines come from plants. Not everything is generated in a lab. There are chemical properties to plants that can be significantly beneficial when you look at them at their most basic properties. And for the most part, when we're talking about this anti-inflammatory diet that we've mentioned with the heavy plants and antioxidants and lean meat, those are the properties in those recommendations that actually help them to reduce inflammation in the body. So plants and foods that are high, that have very high antioxidative and anti-inflammatory properties, you find that sometimes they're bitter or they're ultra natural. Cooking can impair their nutrition content, and all of that is certainly the case, but it's not, they're not very different. Let me read you off some of the foods that Dr. Sebi said were really great in reducing inflammation, lowering the diabetic risk, etc. It was mushrooms and okra and olives and onions. Those are things that you'd find in a Mediterranean diet. Sea vegetables,
Yes.
squash, tomatoes, zucchini, watercress, apples, bananas, elderberry, ginger, fennel, raspberry, quinoa, rye, spelt, wild rice, hemp seed, walnuts. When it comes to seasoning, to have habanero, sage, if you sweeten some things, date sugar or agave. All of those came from the Dr. Sebi's list. And again, not very different from what it is that we are recommending here within an anti-inflammatory diet. And certainly we'll have some references here that our listeners can follow up with.
Yeah, and I followed Dr. Sebi. My son introduced me to him years ago, and I have friends and family members that have purchased his supplement products for years. But and in looking at it, just like you said, some of it just takes us back and just using common sense and just going
Just
back.
the basics. Yeah. I've done mission trips, and I wanted to mention this because it immediately came to mind as I was reading the list. In Jamaica, in the foothills where I practice, once we give them a few medicines and they run out, they go right back to the bush. And what does that mean? That means teas and tinctures, and these are made from things from the yard. And for the most part, a bitter tea, for example, a cerasee or bitter melon, etc., they have those same properties, those properties that help to reduce inflammation because of all of the chemicals or plant-based chemicals that are remaining there. So inflammation is how COVID affects the body. Inflammation is essentially the reaction to this foreign virus. Once the lung cells and the alveoli, which are the air sacs in the lungs, the lining of them starts to swell, or in the blood vessels, the inner lining of the blood vessels start to swell. Circulation is impaired, oxygen exchange is impaired, the ability for products of the immune system to leave the bloodstream, get out to the tissues to heal, that is impaired. Inflammation is the reason that COVID outcomes are so bad. Chronic diseases, which are experienced disproportionately by African Americans, people with diabetes, obesity, and heart disease, they already are in a health state of inflammation. So when COVID is incurred, the inflammation or the inflammatory process is exacerbated, and that's one of the reasons that we experience such or fatal outcomes in such disproportion in comparison to
that's a triple threat right there.
So got to address that. The other thing we got to do is boost our immunity. Once we have the inflammation under control, or at least trying to address it by taking in less sugar, boosting our vitamin D, and taking in our zinc and other supplements and etc. What are we doing to keep our immune system lifted? Well, supplements is a way to do it. Certainly eating a variety of foods is a way to do it, but I wanted to make mention specifically of a few, like zinc. Ever since this COVID thing came out, the first thing I went to do was to get me some more zinc supplements. I personally take zinc all the time. I was taking it before COVID, but I made sure that I had a sufficient supply when the time came that we were buying toilet paper, etc. So when I went to get some zinc, I was like, oh my gosh, where's all the zinc? Then I went off the shelf. I went to Amazon. Where's the zinc? Back order. I do vitamin distribution with my office, so I went to my wholesaler. It's also on back order. I'm like, what in the world is going on here? So yeah, everyone got hip to zinc and knew that that is a mechanism to boost immunity.
That's a good thing, because you don't hear oftentimes in our culture people talking about taking supplements. My husband has introduced me to zinc, which is interesting because I was the one on the medical side, but some 30, 40 years ago, it was important that he always made sure he had a supply of zinc. But before you go further, I had a question from one of my assistants here, and the question was about young people, because they tend to kind of navigate to trendy diets, and they'll jump on the next best one. And so the question is, what would you say to them versus coming back to a more dietary type of. I can hear some staticky. I'm not sure where this is from.
I think I understand the question. Sometimes young people adopt trim diets or fad diets for quick weight loss. I personally don't advocate those. I don't tell anyone what not to do, but anything that's not sustainable, recipe for sex, for example, if you go on a liquid diet for a while, you may not get benefit, but as soon as you go back to your normal or what was your normal way of consuming, then your body will consume, what fast or this liquid intake as
Hold on for just a second. We can hear some technical difficulties. I'm not sure if you're picking it up on your end, but it's you. So we're going to just take a quick break and check in with our technicians and see what's going on.
Yeah. Can you guys hear me? Yeah. I don't know what's going on. Can you mute yourself and then put yourself back on mute? Or, yeah, I don't. What is going on here? Okay. Start talking.
Oh,
so
then it must be on your end.
Yeah. Can you?
Are you near? It's like it's two microphones kind of competing.
Do you have enough?
Okay.
I can hear everyone.
There we
clearly.
go. Now you're back.
Okay, let's start again.
All
Sorry,
right.
Thank you all for your patience, but we wanted to make sure you could hear us.
So fad diets and any extreme temporary change that occurs, as soon as you resume your normal meal patterns, the body takes it like a shock. So this is why the weight gain kind of comes back faster and more so once the fad diet is over. My recommendation is that small changes be made towards a healthier lifestyle. For example, if you consume soda, a 6-pack a week, maybe consider consuming soda twice a week, or consuming the smaller cans of soda until the craving for such is eliminated. Ease those bad habits out a little bit at a time by taking small steps. So ultimately, all of the practices that are commensurate with better health, your meal choice, drinking fluids that are sugar free, moving around a little bit more. All of those things just become regular routine lifestyle. So we don't have to diet. We should be encouraged to make small changes instead.
I like it.
And make health and a good diet our regular routine, with exceptions being the cake that we like to have, the thing that we like to do, the lazy vacation that we want to take. Allow those things to become exceptions to our standard, but focus on making your standard a healthy one. That's what I recommend.
And another point is, you're talking about healthy diets. One of the things that this pandemic has also done is I have found some amazing cooking shows for healthier eating. And you have these experts that are actually coming on and teaching you to appreciate natural herbs and spices. And you want to talk about changing the taste in your food. And because oftentimes we are quick to just go to the cupboard and grab the dry spices, but there's some that you can pick up from your farmer's market, and the taste is just amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. If we are looking to do, fresh herbs and spices, it's always a winner to do that. Also, there are alternative benefits, such as if you got like oregano planted out in your front yard or something like that. Those things can help keep bugs away. You can rub oregano on something, and because it has antibacterial properties to it. So fresh herbs and spices is always a winner.
Back to eating.
Yeah, absolutely. Back to eating. Eden and eating.
Eating. I got it. I like that. That's your book.
But what I heard that plug there. But what is the thing about eating that is protective to our body and to our cells is the vitamins and minerals that they contain, like vitamin C, vitamin B6, and vitamin E. Those things are immune boosting vitamins that we don't have enough. We have to take in because our body doesn't
Right.
make those
Right.
things. Those are immune boosters. Other immune boosting supplements like vitamin D. Vitamin D is really important because it mediates the expression of some proteins called cytokines. When we get stressed out, when there's a lot of dream, under certain conditions, cytokine presence increases in our body, and these are the precursors to the swelling effect. Okay, and anything that we can take in to help decrease the cytokine expression, those things help to reduce inflammation and reduce our chance for incurring an infection, a bacterial or a viral type infection. Zinc has some of those properties as well that mediate the inflammatory response. So, as a result, they're considered immune boosters. And if we can supplement with those things, certainly consult with your doctor to see if those are safe for you to do. But we definitely should, given the green light by our healthcare provider.
Immune boosters.
So immune boosters and inflammation, those things are really important to do. And also we need to stay hydrated. Something that I've done this COVID season, instead of having, my bottled water, I bought a big pitcher. It was like $2 or something at Walmart. And I keep some citrus slices in it, a lime, lemon, whatever, is on sale. I just like the taste of both. I'll put fresh fruit, mint, whatever in it. I'll put those things in it and then just pour water on top of it. If you've gone to a hotel or, anywhere out in public at some point and saw these, it looks like fruit
that's a new thing
water
now.
in the lobby. It's very, visually appealing, but the nutrients that come from the peels of the additives are very healthy for you. They are immune boosting. They enhance some of those natural feel good neurotransmitters and antidepressant effects naturally, just because you have your sense of smell being stimulated by the smell of the fruit. You are being refreshed and hydrated by the water. And then that taste is not something that's sugar laden. So your body gets the benefit of the nutrients from the plant peel. So it's just a winner in many respects. Filled up from the water, no extra sugar and calories there, and a great functioning body.
Well, I owe a big thank you because remember a while back last year you brought your container in, and so we're not in the studio where we could see those things, but on a couple of occasions you brought items in, and I took that from you. And
wow!
Yes, I am on point. So that's kind of like a daily ritual for me now, and I just
Very
keep.
good.
I have a mason jar, and I just keep replenishing it every day.
Yeah, citrus water.
Keep yourself together.
Yeah, citrus water is actually a part of our weight loss program here in the office, because citrus and vitamin C actually stimulates and boosts the metabolism. So we want to encourage people to do that. There's no harm, no foul in that, and I don't know who's allergic to water or citrus.
Well, some citrus may be a problem.
If you're allergic to those things, you certainly shouldn't do it. I always encourage, people to chat with their healthcare provider, before they undertake any recommendation from a magazine, from the internet, or even from a radio show. If I'm not your healthcare provider, I certainly don't make any direct recommendations. But this is just general good information to keep you swelling on the inside down, boost your immunity, and to make you the least best candidate for a COVID infection.
Well, you shared with us a lot of information about what we can do for inflammation, what we can do to help fight inflammation, and as well our immunity. But This let us see the other side of Dr. Shanae Davis. What are you doing other than putting citrus pills in your water? How are you coping as we get through this pandemic? So let us hear from the real Shanae Davis.
You know what?
See, I knew we needed that. We needed that.
Well, everyone probably has their own little personal communion stash at the house.
Wait, what kind of stash?
Your communion stash. A glass of red wine is not a bad, thing. A glass, a day, every other day, just a serving, is very actually healthy. In most red wines, there are antioxidants,
Yes.
there, and a glass can also help to suppress glucagon production in your liver. Of course, I'm always talking about diabetes and blood sugar issues and things like that. So, it's helpful in that regard. It's relaxing. It gives you some endorphins and has some antidepressant properties. Alcohol is a little bit of a sedative in some respects, so it can help you rest. So I don't do it every night, but probably a couple times a week I'll have some red wine.
Good for you. My niece was sharing with me. We were out in the market, and I said, "What's up with the wine?" And so she's part of a wine club, and
Ah,
they take a bottle and then they put all different other kinds. It's a wine basket, is what it is. It's kind of like a wine basket exchange club, and I just thought that was so cool because she was sharing with me pictures, and some of these women are putting together some incredible baskets, but things that you can use in your home that go along with the wine. It may be a game, so you and your spouse or family can, do something together for game night. It may be some exotic crackers or some other little treats that are in there. It could be a book that accompanies your wine bottle, but you can put in your basket whatever you like. And I just thought that was so cool because she had gotten like several baskets in that one week, and she was pulling together the contents for her basket. And being that I like to decorate stuff and put stuff together, I really wanted to just take it all and beautify it. I thought that was cool, and that's how they're getting through this pandemic.
absolutely, absolutely. So don't let me encourage everybody to just go drinking and things like that. But I also make sure
About
I
that.
get some. Yeah, this is we did mental health associations with COVID last month, but I cannot stress enough the importance of mental health, and it's something that I do. I'll go take a walk. I'll
Yeah,
just stare at the sky. I'll breathe. I listen to music, and I
absolutely.
also log off of the internet. Give myself about at least 30 minutes a day of just being unplugged. All of those things help to reduce your stress, improve your thinking, and give you a positive outlook. My last point, because I know that we're almost wrapping up on the time
We
on
got about 5 minutes.
okay, helping to improve our chances of recovering from COVID should we be infected is
Yes.
improve our diet and consider those supplements. But everybody can't afford it. COVID has also affected the African American community significantly in the pocket. Okay, we're not working as much. You have to budget a little bit more. Things are
Amen
more
to that.
expensive. Things aren't coming into the country as much, so pricing is also affected by the COVID and our public health problem here. There are some food banks, also feeding Tampa Bay, not a food bank, but food distribution,
Correct.
opportunities all around Tampa. And we used to think about food distribution or something free as milk and cheese and butter and bread and jelly sandwiches and things like that.
I had an opportunity to volunteer myself, but I know people who have, given the population I treat, I certainly, stay a little isolated. But they're giving out wonderful vegetables.
Wonderful types of
Okay. We're
food.
good. We're good. Sorry about that.
Good on time. Okay. Yeah, they're giving out, avocados and very, you know, vegetables that you generally don't get. Cucumbers and squash and all of these
Right.
things. We may consider exotic and maybe a little bit more expensive to obtain otherwise. So if you're affected, there are some resources that we're sharing. The food pantry of Feeding Tampa Bay has different locations around town and in the surrounding counties that we'll share some of those sites for you. Also, don't forget about your churches and other nonprofit organizations that may have some of those resources available. But I definitely wanted to highlight the calendar of Feeding Tampa Bay because it's a
Okay.
tremendous resource for our community.
And that's one of our church participates with Feeding America, and with that, even during the beginning of the pandemic, I mean, we opened our food pantry and clothes closet every second and fourth Monday, twice a day in the mornings and then again in the evenings. And because we are partnering with Feeding America, we were able to, as you say, ascertain some great produce, and it's great to be able to do that. We even kind of created a drive-through where you would just run your vehicle up, grab a bag, and keep going. And so shout out to New Mount Zion Missionary Baptist Church and our great pastor, the Reverend Larry L. Roundtree. As a matter of fact, if you're in need of prayer, you can drive by today from I think 4 to 6 p.m. Drive by prayer, absolutely.
And he's a rattler. He's a rattler. Yeah.
Yes, he is.
That one. But anyway, I wanted to make mention of that. And if you got kids at home and they're bored and you got one of those food boxes, turn on a chop show or click on the internet, just do some chop challenges, give them the produce, have them make you something that's wonderful. It probably will taste good.
Yes.
But that's something for your children to do besides play video games. And it's kind of interactive with the family, and it keeps those good vibes going.
Cool. Well, listen, we've got about 2 more minutes and we are going to wrap up, but let's just take this opportunity because you covered some very, very important content today. When it comes to us as a culture, when it comes to us as individuals, we've got to pay attention to our dietary intake.
Indeed.
Whether you're young, middle age, or seniors, it's just something we have to do. This COVID-19 seems like it's going to be with us for a while in the future. As we hear our governor and other elected officials, school board, thinking about reopening our schools and what that's going to look like. But as of right now, and we'll check with some entities because there are organizations that are giving out masks for free. And so if we have the opportunity, we'll add some of those, if not today, later on, because we want to make sure that we are practicing wearing our protective face coverings and as well making sure that we are social distancing. Now, my church, we are still streaming live. We have not begun to open with our usual congregational service. I'm sure your church is doing the same thing.
First Baptist is the same, yeah. First Baptist is the same, yeah.
And our Bible study is still virtual. I mean, you can see churches that are opening. You can see people who are just not practicing social distancing. But let's take your message to heart, and each one of us look out for the next person, so that we're not just thinking about ourselves. If you're wearing a mask, think about the person that you're around. Help protect them. Maybe because you're young, you think you're invincible, but if you look at the statistics, it's affecting young people as well. And so you bring us such great information when it's Let's Talk Business with Dr. Shani Davis. It is the show where you keep us all up in our medical business and then some. And so for that, we say thank you. You look fantastic. I can't wait to either give you a virtual hug now, but just be able to bump fists with you sometime.
Elbows, yeah.
Sometime in the near future. But we will continue to bring such great information to you. And as always, she's behind the scenes working with other medical experts, trying to, get them to come on the show as well. But for now, we take this information that you have shared with us to heart. I'm
Indeed.
And so for that, we say thank you to our In Touch family. We say thank you to our Facebook, and we'll talk to them. We'll be on because In Touch will actually leave the Zoom, but we do want to take the time to, and you as well, Dr. Davis, even you may not see us on the, well, no, we'll still be on the screen because we'll keep the Zoom on so that you can say thank you to your Facebook live. I hope you were able to go live. If not, are you live on Facebook?
I'm going to share. I'm going to share and do a watch party after this.
We'll just say thank you to those faithful listeners.
Indeed.
And so in a moment now, we will disconnect from In Touch News, but we'll continue to say hello and a very special thank you to some of our Facebook viewers. And as a matter of fact, if I'm able to just kind of look at some of them, we can do it now. You know, our dear